This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
Right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show. Welcome to another exciting episode to the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And today we're going to be revisiting the 1990 edition of Summerslam. Took place on August 27th, 1990, and I couldn't be more excited.
You're always really excited.
I always am. I'm a little excited. I'm always excited to watch classic wrestling. I mean, the old school stuff we grew up on. I'm really, really pumped about getting to the Attitude Era when we were teenagers and young adults. But to go back and revisit these when we were kids and we didn't really follow it the same way. You know what I mean? Like it was just something we watched Saturday mornings with our stepbrother.
Exactly. So, back in the days when we would watch Andre the Giant and think he was an actual good wrestler.
Oh, jeez. I know where Blaze is going here, and I'm going to cut him off right now. So, like I said, we've got SummerSlam 1990. Super pumped about it. There's going to be a cage match in this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one. It's got two good wrestlers. Who is those, the two wrestlers?
Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude. I'm rooting for Rick Rude in this one.
We love us some Rick Rude, don't we?
But due to the history books, I got a bad feeling I know who's going to win.
Is it for the title?
It's for the title.
It's definitely not going to be who we want.
Yeah, so unfortunately, due to the history of wrestling and what we already know about Ravishing Rick Rude, we know how this one will end up ending. So that's unfortunate.
But I'm still excited to see it because Rick Rude puts on a fantastic show every time he shows up in these matches.
He absolutely does. So why don't we just jump into it? And here it is. We just watched the beginning of the show, and they're giving us some video package pumping up that match, the cage match. And then next thing we get is Vince McMahon with a new commentator next to him. I don't know if this is going to stick, if this is a one-time deal, but we've got Rowdy Piper. We get to hear Rowdy Piper talk for the whole 2.5 hours.
I hope he's there for the whole thing because that is icing on the cake right there. That is so great. I am so excited. I love Rowdy Piper, and one of the things that is the best of Rowdy Piper, the man is an amazing talker.
Yeah, sometimes controversial talker, so hopefully he gets through this pay-per-view without saying anything that we have to put a disclaimer next to.
He already has started a little bit with a little bit of racism. Not so much racism, but he's like, no Baghdad here. It's not too bad, but with his track record, it's already a little racy.
I gotcha. So, we're gonna move on to the first match, which is the Rockers versus Power and Glory, which is Paul Roma and Hercules.
Yeah, Hercules is a heel again.
Yes, and I think he kind of serves better as a heel.
Serves better, and as shown in this match, they actually, I felt like when he was a face, like he was never winning matches. He was getting his butt kicked in every single match that he was in, and finally they made him look dominant in this tag team match.
Yeah, I agree with that. They actually, so we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. They did make him look dominant, and I forgot to mention that Slick is in their corner. I forgot to mention Slick, but Slick is in their corner, just to kind of clarify. So this match ended up being essentially a handicap match, and we didn't quite understand why during the match. It was Marty Jannetty versus Power and Glory, and I just looked it up, and maybe they'll inform us later on the show, so I might be getting ahead of myself. But it turns out that I believe it was Paul Roma hit Shawn Michaels with a chair before the match even began. And before, or no, it was Hercules. I apologize. Hercules attacked Shawn Michaels prior to the first televised bout, hitting him in the knee with a chain. So I don't believe we saw that at the beginning of the match, did we?
I don't recall seeing it at all.
Maybe we missed it. Maybe they didn't glorify it.
Maybe it was backstage.
Yeah, so turns out Shawn Michaels had a knee injury during this whole match. So the whole match he was outside the ring in pain. So this whole match was a handicap match. So that was kind of different. And Marty Jannetty had a few flashy moves here and there, but he never overcame it, and they ended up looking very dominant, and I really enjoyed their finishing move, to be honest.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Superplex, and then a diving splash from Roma after Hercules did a superplex, but the way they timed it was amazing.
Yeah, as soon as Marty Jannetty was on the ground, Paul Roma was in the air getting ready for that diving splash. It was well timed, really interesting to see. I liked it a lot. It was a really good ending, and Rowdy was just great on the mic again.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best talkers in the history of the WWF, and it definitely showcases as somebody doing commentating. It was very refreshing. Although I really like Jesse the Body Ventura, just Rowdy Piper's just a whole different level. That's all.
My only concern with him on commentating today, does that mean we don't get to see him in a match?
Yeah, I don't imagine he will be if he's on the commentating booth. Okay, so we went back to the beginning of this match just because we wanted to kind of see what happened. And it turns out that Shawn Michaels was limping out to the ring. So the chair shot must have happened before. So we never saw this supposed chair shot. Maybe they would have talked about it and we just overlooked it. Or maybe they're going to bring it up later. But we did kind of see Hercules use the chain to re-injure and keep the knee down and keep Shawn out of the match. So it makes you almost wonder if Shawn had a medical reason he couldn't compete in this match. So they kind of created this little diversion. But yeah, so I guess the chain shot was there. It happened so fast because it happened at the beginning of the match. But the chair shot wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, no, it wasn't. But I am looking forward to seeing more Power and Glory. Yeah, we've seen Paul Roma before, and he was with the Jim Powers with the Young Stallions. And I think this is a much better fit for Paul Roma.
Yeah, he definitely complements Hercules a lot better. They look like a dominant team.
Yeah, and I like the name, Power and Glory. I think it's a cool name. So I'm looking forward to seeing more Power and Glory.
Yeah, hopefully they stick around for a while on our shows. I kind of remember them, so I think they do, but I remember them to a degree. It was the cut-off white shirts that I remembered when they came out. Like, I remembered that look. Yeah. So I would assume we're going to see some of them for a little while. I don't know how long that lasts. I do recall them.
I know Young Stallions really didn't pop for me. Watching them in these episodes or these pay-per-views, the Young Stallions really never popped, neither did Paul Roma. So I think this is a much better fit. I mean, I think we've been enjoying Hercules. He hasn't really done much, but I think we've enjoyed talking about him just because of all the deity and all that stuff. And he's been entertaining and mostly in entertaining matches. So I think this is a really good spot for both.
So another thing I'd like to point out is at the end of the match, they bring out a stretcher because the Rockers get kind of beat up a little bit more at the end of the match after the bell rang, and they're bringing Shawn Michaels out on a stretcher, and Vince McMahon is clearly pointing out, well, we don't know when we'll see the Rockers again. So I don't know if this was their way of taking him off TV for a while, or maybe, I can't remember the year Shawn turned on Marty Jannetty, but it almost feels like maybe this is kind of leading to it. I don't know. I'd like to kind of enjoy it and not research it, because obviously I remember the barbershop. I remember Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty. I just don't remember what year it was.
I don't remember the year, and I don't remember how soon it is.
Yeah.
So it's probably getting close.
Well, I know I started watching Monday
early
Night
90s.
I started watching Monday Night Raw, and that premiered in 93, and he was already heel by the time Raw started. But he was feuding with Marty Jannetty, so I kind of think it happened in 92.
And when did Raw start? Like what?
93, like January.
In January, so it would have been right at the end of 92,
Yeah,
probably.
I think
so this might be just starting the dissension.
Yeah,
if they're
so-
doing a long game.
So we do have 2 more years of shows before I think it is going to happen. I just don't remember the exact time and date it happens. I just know that I think it's around 92 it happens. But I found it odd that Shawn didn't compete in this match at all. And it maybe because we know what happens next, it feels like there's more happening. But almost like, oh, Shawn, was kind of leaving Marty out to dry or something. But I still think this is a little early before it happens.
Yeah, probably, but I mean, we also might miss out on the Rockers for a little bit if they're going to play this injury angle. We might not get them for a couple shows.
This is a high possibility, and that'd be extremely sad.
Agreed. Even though we haven't really got to see a lot of highlights with Shawn, Marty Jannetty has been pretty great.
Yeah,
though.
the Rockers haven't quite blossomed to what I thought I remembered yet.
Which is sad because we're getting close to the end of the Rockers.
Yeah.
And we really haven't gotten much greatness from them.
Yeah, they're kind of a jobber tag team that comes out and celebrates with the crowd, and then they lose.
Okay, I would disagree with the jobber status.
Okay, maybe not jobber, but I'm just saying
they're
they're always losing.
But they're normally pretty well-liked, popular. They get popped. They get cheered. They're normally doing a lot of exciting things, at least Marty is. And it is sad because, yeah, we're used to seeing a lot more. Our memory is that the Rockers were awesome, but maybe we just really liked the heel turn. And we don't really remember the Rockers quite as well. But Marty has been pretty fun to watch, so maybe we were really liking Marty and we just didn't realize we didn't care as much for Shawn.
Well, let's put it this way. I don't believe the Rockers ever won the World Tag Team titles.
No.
And that's...
did a podcast on that one,
and
Pro
that's
Wrestling
shocking.
Apologist. They won it one time at a house show, and then it got deleted or something. They changed the record. So it's not even an official win. So they did win the titles, but it got changed. And so they're not on the record books for actually winning a tag title at all in their career.
That's a shame.
For WWE.
Okay, well, I think it's time to move on from this match and see what the rest of SummerSlam has to hold for us. Okay, so next we have an interview with Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Perfect. And it was a pretty good interview, but I noticed that Mr. Perfect was a little bit more outspoken, more than we've seen him on our podcast so far, where he was kind of yelling everything. Like, almost how a lot of the guys in that time yelled their interviews, where I didn't feel Mr. Perfect really did that. He was kind of yelling in this interview.
Well, you notice there was another weird thing about this interview.
What, that he kept saying perfect every other word?
No, that's not weird. He's perfect.
That makes sense, but it was just the yelling kind of threw me off.
No. His manager's Bobby the Brain Heenan and not the Genius.
Oh, this is true. I wonder what happened to the Genius.
I don't know.
But I think they were more. I think they were more of a tag team, not a managerial thing.
Kinda,
technically. Yeah. Okay, so getting into this match, We also get the Texas Tornado gets a little bit of an interview, and this is the first time we've seen Texas Tornado, a.k.a. Kerry Von Erich, and it is for the Intercontinental Championship. So this is kind of odd that this is the first time we've seen this wrestler, and he's actually going for a title. First time we've seen him. Now, not to say he hasn't been on other shows that we haven't covered, but as for the major pay-per-views, it's the first time we've seen him.
Yeah, and I'm just going to be honest right now. I was very disappointed.
Yeah, so this match was a pretty good match. It was a pretty exciting match, but the ending was I guess a Texas Tornado Punch, maybe. I don't know what you call it. And basically it was a left fist.
I don't remember Texas Tornado at all. And
but he wins the title. He wins the Intercontinental Championship.
Which means, because we just saw Mr. Perfect and he didn't have the title.
Right.
And he faced Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And
he lost.
So he's won the title within this time between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. And now he's lost it. He's lost 2 pay-per-views in a row. First to Brutus, which I guess isn't nearly as bad. But now to this new guy, Texas Tornado, that I don't even remember in wrestling. And he loses, not only does he lose again, he loses his title that he just apparently got.
Not very perfect, is it?
No, it's not very perfect at all.
Although I love Mr. Perfect. I'm not talking bad about Mr. Perfect. I really appreciate it. But yeah, he's been on he had a perfect record. Nobody beat him. And then all of a sudden, last 2 pay-per-views, boom, boom, he loses. And
personally,
he could have held the Intercontinental title for a long time, in my opinion. And,
and personally, he should have won the title and before he ever lost. In my opinion, I think that would have been much better. That perfect record should have gone on, and he should have had the title, been dominant, and then maybe eventually loses to someone.
So almost like a Goldberg, how they did Goldberg. He was perfect winning streak, and then he wins the title, held the title for a while until he finally lost the title for the...
Kind of like Goldberg, but not at all because Goldberg sucks. I am not a fan of Goldberg.
Okay, so let's find out who's next.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Okay, so it turns out what's next is the fact that they have a exit interview with Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Perfect. And they are saying that that Texas Tornado was breaking every rule and this was unfair. It's very, just filing the grievances of this match because he lost the Intercontinental Championship. So then the next thing we get is kind of awkward. It's kind of weird. We have Queen Sherry in the ring, all dressed up, has a mask on, makeup.
Dressed up is one way to put it.
Well, so anyhow, this is how I imagine Queen Sherry wakes up out of bed. So she comes to the ring
checks out.
with very little preparation. And then they play the American Dream's theme music because she's going to have a match with Saphire. And like they play the music and Saphire doesn't come out. So then they replay the music and Saphire doesn't come out. So then a WWF official comes out and pretty much says if she's not out here in 30 seconds, she forfeits. So they do a countdown, and of course, Sherry steals the mic from the ring announcer, and she does the countdown from 10, and she's declared the winner. But what's confusing about this is Sherry didn't look like she just pulled one over on anybody. She sincerely looked confused at where Saphire is. So then after this event happens, they go to the back and they interview the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And even Dusty Rhodes is claiming he doesn't know where Saphire is, but then he said something very awkward in the interview. So I don't know what's going on, but he said something about how she's gotten a new Cadillac and this and that and gotten all these new things. So I don't know why she wouldn't show up. Almost like, I almost felt his interview was almost kind of saying, like she's biting the hand that fed her. But out of everybody, you would have thought the interview, and in most modern wrestling days, I think the interview would have went more like, something smells fishy. I think somebody attacked Saphire. We need to find Saphire. I just kind of feel like in a modern wrestling, there would have been more of a what's going on here.
I was looking
where he was almost saying weird things about. She just got this new Cadillac. Yeah, like Sapphire just left me.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. And then we had a random Hacksaw Jim Duggan coming by. We've been looking for her. I haven't been able to find her. And
just a random appearance by Hacksaw.
Yeah,
looking all I can.
Yeah, it's a weird segment, and I'm assuming we're going to get more as the show goes on.
Well, I think the weirdest thing is if we don't get clarification, we're going to have to Google this and find out what in the world's going on with Saphire, because something had to have happened, right?
Wouldn't it be terrible if she literally did go missing this night?
And we're sitting here talking
we're saying
we have no clue.
What is this wrestling story going on?
Yeah, so hopefully this is a storyline, but I don't remember this, so I guess I just don't know what's going on. But it just played out very odd. It played out like Sensational Sherry didn't know that she wasn't going to come out, and she almost looked just as confused as everybody else.
I think we're safe because I think this definitely was a story. It wasn't something where she really went missing. I think what we're going to end up finding out later on in the show is Macho Man has Saphire
or something.
Yeah, because if you notice, Macho Man was not there with Sensational Sherry.
He wasn't at ringside, and so they haven't interviewed him.
I think there's some bullshittery going on.
Very odd. Just this. I will say this pay-per-view has felt very more leaning towards modern wrestling. You've got the grievances of Texas Tornado cheated. You've got the attacks on the Rockers before the match. Now you've got Saphire going missing.
It's almost feeling more like we're in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, very story driven right now. This pay-per-view and the matches have been good. There hasn't been a bad match in my opinion yet. I mean, you can argue that Texas Tornado winning that match was disappointing, but it wasn't a bad match. So there really hasn't been a bad match. Matter of fact, these matches have been better so far as a whole than all of WrestleMania 6.
I will say that it's kind of disappointing because we were just about to get the first women's wrestling match
in a while.
In quite a few shows we've done.
And they're like, nah.
And then they were like, no, she didn't show up. She disappeared.
We're going to pretend like we wanted to do this, but we're not doing this. No,
it's like, somebody was complaining about women's wrestling. Well, we're going to tease it and be like, nah.
Yeah, we tried.
Nope.
we put our best effort out there.
Screw you, women.
So, the next match that comes is, Tito Santana versus the Warlord with Slick, and Warlord definitely has a new look now.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
He went away from the I'm a third-rate Legion of Doom character with his face paint. They was very much Legion of Doom looking. And now he's got this like weird getup with this black like armor thing, and then some
like
little
a half mask.
Yeah, and then like a half mask. Like he had like some armor on, like I don't know, maybe a warlord. So, and he's also not with his team.
Yeah, he's been singles for a couple of shows now. They've shown the warlord, but he still had the face paint. He still looked like the same character, just without a tag partner. But now they've completely rebranded him into a different. And I think I pointed out at the very beginning of the match, I said, looks like they had the Stone Cold Steve Austin look before Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He definitely looked very similar to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
He looked like a jacked version.
A jacked version, no beer belly involved. There was
black trunks and all.
Black trunks. Less alcohol and fingers being thrown around. Yeah, he did have a very stone cold look, even though he didn't have the full on goatee. He had a
goatee,
a handlebar,
but it was different. It was a different looking goatee. But this match I thought was once again a very solid match. Tito Santana got to show off his wrestling ability, but they definitely made Warlord look dominant, just like they did with Power and Glory. They made him look like a powerhouse.
They're really showcasing the dominance of heels in this show so far.
Yeah, so I thought this was a very good match. Warlord wins, which he should have come out with a new look, new attitude, new image. Yeah,
if you want to take him seriously,
if you want him to take serious, yeah, you should let him win that match. So he gets the win, and so far this SummerSlam has been very solid. With just that little sprinkle of that awkwardness of what's going on with the Saphire Queen Sherry match. Which kind of odd.
Which I'm holding judgment for that because I don't think that storyline is over.
Yeah, I think we're going to get some kind of conclusion there. But if we don't, I'm going to have to whip out the Google.
We will whip out that Google. Ricky's going to whip it out.
Yeah, whip out the Google and show it to everybody.
Rage is going to whip it out.
Rage is going to whip it out. Okay, so let's, on that note, let's move on.
All right.
Okay, so we end up getting a interview next with the WWF World Tag Team Champions Demolition, and we learn that Crush has now joined the team. So now we have Axe, Smash, and Crush, and it turns out any member of the team can defend the titles.
Yeah, they're doing some New Day shenanigans.
I don't know if I think that's fair, but I know the WWF and WWE has done this before, but I just don't agree with it. That's just a personal opinion.
Besides New Day and Demolition?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, that's like saying that DX won the tag title, but the New Age Outlaws didn't have to defend it. It could have been anybody in DX.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure
I don't understand why that's allowed.
I'm pretty sure they never did that either. Like, I don't think they added X-Pac instead of Badass Billy Gunn.
No, not to my recollection. I don't think they ever did that. But
I wonder if maybe they did it with the Nation of Domination.
I don't recall. I don't recall this being a norm in wrestling. How about that? Yeah. So I didn't realize that Demolition ever did this, but I do know of New Day, and I never agreed with it when New Day was doing it. I always kind of felt that was odd that they would allow anybody to defend the titles. It's just odd to me. A tag team's two people. I just find it odd.
Yeah, and I'm now wondering if maybe this is the only time this has happened, is with the addition of Crush, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe New Day started doing that. They started doing that with New Day as like an homage to to Demolition doing this.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
they're kind of fanboys in the New Day. I can see them doing things for as an homage to past teams.
And do you know why?
Because
New Day rocks. New Day rocks. New Day rocks.
New.
Okay. So anyhow, now that we got that out of our systems, we go to a Hart Foundation interview with Bret the Hitman Hart, and I get to see Jim the Anvil Neidhart talk more than I think I've ever noticed before.
And that probably wasn't a good thing.
I don't think it was horrible. He just wasn't.
He had that like continuous laugh as he's talking.
Yeah, I think me and everybody else in this house was looking at you awkwardly like that was kind of scary. So
it was kind of scary when Jim the Anvil Neidhart did it too.
So they also kind of file their same argument that it should be the original tag team, Axe and Smash, defending the titles, and Crush shouldn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, the Hart Foundation was like, that's bullshit.
Basically, without the words.
It was slightly more drawn out than that, but essentially they were saying that's bullshit.
Fair enough. Okay, so after the interviews, we get Demolition. They come out. We got Brett, the Hart Foundation out there, and it's time for a tag match, and Axe is not there. It is going to be Crush and Smash versus the Hart Foundation, and this is a 2 out of 3 falls match, and this match was phenomenal.
No, this was great.
This was an amazing match.
Not to bring out spoilers, but so far this is the match of the night.
Yeah, definitely.
2 out of 3
without
falls.
a doubt. This was a very fun match to watch, a very exciting match to watch.
Good
a lot
storyline.
a lot of drama in this match, but the wrestling was top notch as well. This was just what you want wrestling to be.
I would say that the only complaint you have is the shenanigans that were being done.
But the shenanigans made this such a fun match, and a lot of the reasons because they got their comeuppance at the end.
No, I'm not complaining about the shenanigans. I'm more talking about how everybody just ignores the fact that Axe and Smash don't look anything alike.
Yeah, so we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So the first fall is won by Demolition, and there was a little bit of shadiness going on there for that pinfall, but they get the first pinfall. The second pinfall goes to the Hart Foundation, and it really wasn't even a pinfall. Bret the Hitman Hart had one of them, I think it was smashed down for the pin, and Crush came in, and now if there's a 3 count, what do? Just Wrestling 101. What do you do to stop the count?
What do? You attack him.
You attack who? The guy
pinning.
Okay, that's not what Crush did. Instead, Crush jumped over them and tackled the referee. Don't think I've ever seen this in all the wrestling I've ever watched.
Now,
he literally tackles the referee. The referee looks at him like he's stupid and then points to the ring, the bell guy, and he's like, the disqualification, that fall goes to the Hart Foundation.
You kind of missed something that I absolutely love. This referee was a badass.
Oh yeah, he did a little bit of extracurriculars.
There was a moment where Bret the Hitman Hart is trying to reach for the tag to Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Smash is holding Bret the Hitman Hart's leg, and he's trying to pull him and keep him from getting the pin or the tag, and Crush goes and he grabs the leg of Smash to help him pull Bret the Hitman Hart. The referee is like, and kicks his leg.
Yeah.
I have never seen a ref get so physical as he did in this match.
Well, and the referee we're talking about is actually Earl Hebner. That's who this is.
It was Earl Hebner.
It was Earl Hebner. So yeah, it was definitely, he was very engaged, very involved. The only knock on Earl Hebner is after the second fall, we're tied 1-1. Axe comes out, comes under the ring, and then eventually him and Smash switch places. And apparently Earl Hebner needs to get his prescription glasses or contact lens changed because he couldn't tell the difference between a pudgy Axe or a very fit Smash that's a lot taller. Maybe not a lot taller.
It wasn't just Earl Hebner either, though.
Yeah, the Hart Foundation just happened to not notice it
Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Like, they were like, oh, man. And not to mention, Axe comes in and he has full face paint. He hasn't lost any of his face paint. Somehow he got out of the ring and somehow like redid his makeup.
Earl Hebner must have looked at him and said, you must have touched touched it up. That checks out.
Well, after being such a badass, he's like blind.
So yeah, just very awkward. I mean, you could pull this off with the Bella Twins, or there's certain wrestlers or masked wrestlers. You could pull this off.
Kind of like what they did with the B team.
Yeah, just
they wear masks for the first time.
Axe and Smash do not look enough alike. I mean, I know they're in makeup and everything, but they're completely different body types. So it's just kind of odd but I mean, we're supposed to live in this world of, okay, they're cheating, let's just live with it, but it was just very awkward. But the good news is it doesn't fully work due to the fact that we get our first appearance of, oh, what a rush! Legion of Doom is here! This is awesome!
Yeah, it was really cool seeing them come down, and they came down in the best way. They come down. It was Smash. Or no,
it was Axe. Axe was under the ring. They pull him out of under the ring.
Hey, you ain't doing this bullshit anymore. And they take him out. Then, during the commotion, the Hart Foundation manages to pick up the win with the old, put one of them, on their knees and then I believe it was Jim the Anvil Neidhart comes in with a shoulder block off the ropes and trips over them.
And they get the 1, 2, 3, and we have new WWF World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. Maybe not heavyweight. Yeah.
And can you think of a better team to be tag team champions in this era?
Than the Hart Foundation?
Than the Hart Foundation.
I just found out Legion of Doom is in the building, but other than that, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Every pay-per-view we've watched, who's probably the best wrestling tag team that we have seen on this podcast?
Yeah, but by far it'd be the Hart Foundation. Demolition's also been really great. I'm not saying there hasn't been great tag teams, but yes, the Hart Foundation has been above and beyond everybody. They have been the highlight of tag team wrestling.
What I'm trying to say here is there is not a more deserving tag team champions than what we just finally got is the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so I'm super pumped to see if Legion of Doom has a match now on this show, or if that's
I have a feeling they're not. But I feel like they just came into. I'm going to guess that they just came to wrestling, and they decided to start the feud with Demolition. So I'm guessing they don't have a match.
I'm just excited. That was awesome. I love Legion of Doom. Excited to see him. Can't wait till Heidenreich joins him. No, it's just Heidenreich. Oh no! Anyhow, I love Legion of Doom. Very excited. Very partial to their shoulder pads.
I wonder why.
The spiked shoulder pads.
I don't know
have
if you
pair
like
myself.
the colors.
Yeah, I mean that you can change the colors up, and they would definitely work out a little bit better than the red and black. But I still love the shoulder pads. And a matter of fact, I'm actually in the search for a new pair of shoulder pads because mine are so old they're starting to deteriorate. So I'm going to have to think about replacing
his
my
wife
shoulder
is
pads.
giving him a look like those were expensive. You can back off.
Look like is he advertising trying to get someone to find them?
Yeah, any listen. No, I'm not advertising, but yeah, if anybody sees a sale on shoulder pads, send me in the right direction. I'll have to check Spirit Halloween's clearance sale, see if they got anything out there. I don't know if they're still open. It's been kind of a couple days since Halloween, so
yeah, they might have stuff on
hard to
sale,
say if they're still up and running.
It's only been 5 days.
I'm not sure how long it's they stay open after Halloween. So, but no, I'm just pointing out that I love my shoulder pads.
Fair enough.
I was just wearing them Saturday for Halloween. So anyhow, let's go ahead and keep this moving. Okay, so next thing we get is a advertisement for WrestleMania 7. And they're kind of hyping that up with a big video. They also earlier, we didn't mention it, but they actually was advertising Survivor Series also. So
yeah,
we're
great
getting,
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, we're getting into the point where they're definitely like doing advertisements for their next shows. But, they literally are advertising 2 of their shows and we're only a little over an hour into the show. So, next thing we get after that is a Legion of Doom explanation interview, and this interview is awesome.
Yeah, Rage just loved this interview because he got to hear "What a rush."
Oh yeah, I loved hearing them talk. They're great on the mic. They're just so intense. Legion of Doom is just amazing. They're awesome. If you didn't like Legion of Doom growing up, then frankly, you just don't have taste and you're dumb. So
you don't like wrestling.
Yeah, Legion of Doom was just amazing. So then we get the Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart join them during the interview, and you can kind of smell a Survivor Series match coming up.
Yeah, I think we're definitely setting up a.
Yeah.
The big question is
Who's
the
Demolition?
fourth member of Demolition?
Yeah.
For this Survivor Series match, because we're definitely going to get the Hart Foundation, Legion of Doom together versus Demolition in one. Who do you think it would be? Who do you think would be Warlord?
Warlord would be a good person to be on Demolition's corner. But it's hard to say. It's just don't know what's, we really were not watching the individual shows leading up to these pay-per-views. If you'd watch those, maybe there'd be a hint of who it might be, but we'll just have to wait till we get to the Survivor Series episode and find out, which I'd like to remind listeners that the Survivor Series episode that's coming up soon is our first appearance of The Undertaker.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that when we get to...
Maybe that's their partner. Maybe it was like a mystery partner.
No, because I actually...
Do you remember who that was?
I don't know who Demolition's partner is, but I specifically remember Undertaker shows up as part of the $1 Million Dream Team with $1 Million Man.
Okay.
Yeah, he comes out as a heel for $1 Million Man.
Yeah, and I think he comes out with Brother Love, I believe, originally.
Yes. Brother Love was his first manager.
And then Dusty Rhodes is on the other side, I believe.
Now, I don't remember all that, but I do know that Undertaker's first appearance is part of the $1 Million Dream Team. So I'm pretty sure it's not Undertaker.
Okay, so we're just speculating. We're kind of getting.
We're speculating a pay-per-view that happened many years ago.
That literally, all we would have to do is Google this. But but where's the fun in that?
No.
Let's just pretend we're living in the moment like we have no clue.
We are.
We kind of are. Okay, so the next thing is we get a Sean Mooney trying to interview Demolition, but he's outside the door. You hear a lot of screaming behind the door, but you don't actually get a Demolition interview. He's kind of explaining that they're talking about revenge, but it's on LOD that they're wanting revenge on, not the Hart Foundation. So then we move on to yet another interview. Bear with us. This is a slew of interviews. It's kind of like we're at the halftime of the show, and they're just kind of doing a bunch of interviews, kind of taking a break from the action. So then we also get a Queen Sherry interview where she gloats over her victory against Saphire, but we still don't know where Saphire is. We still don't know what's going on with that. But she's kind of making little hints that maybe she has an idea, and she kind of incoherently starts speaking some weird stuff. And it's just kind of a weird interview, but she's kind of a weird character anyhow.
And she's looking like she belongs in the musical Cats, not at WWF.
I'm wondering if she was doing a production of Cats the same day.
I mean, it's very
maybe
possible.
it was just easy to stay in costume for her wrestling match, and maybe that's why she made sure Saphire couldn't come out there, is because she couldn't smear the makeup because she's about to do a Broadway production.
I mean, possibly.
Very possible. Anything's possible, but that's where I'm going to go with this.
It was a really crazy interview. And she starts screaming unintelligibly at one point.
Yeah. So, and her interview was almost about as incoherent as the movie Cats was.
Fair enough. And she also made a point of, I think what she was saying is that was talking about Saphire being missing for some reason, talking about it, because she right afterwards she's like, well, I didn't say she was a person, Mean Gene. I said she's missing. Little dig.
So anyhow, so then next thing we get is a Big Boss Man interview, which was kind of weird. Didn't really know who he's fighting, due to the fact that he starts talking about the Snake and Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, he's talking about Jake the Snake Roberts and Bad News Brown, who has a match And
So we're not 100% sure why he's talking about this, because fast forward a couple interviews, which we'll talk more extensively about it, but we do eventually get a Jake the Snake interview who talks about Bad News Brown, which is obviously going to be his opponent tonight. So why Big Boss Man was talking about Jake the Snake and Bad News Brown, we're not 100% sure.
I think he was just trying to say that, you know, these sewer rats, these snakes, I'll stop them all. We're not sure if he's still a face or a heel here.
I think he's a face. I just don't understand.
I'm not sure.
I didn't understand why he was talking about certain people that it doesn't appear he's even going to be in a match with. I think his match might be against Dino Bravo, just based off of another interview we hear here in a few minutes. So then the next interview is...
Bossman also looked like he was on Jenny Craig at this time.
Yeah, he definitely is definitely not as big as he was when we first met him.
He should be the slightly less big Bossman.
He's still really tall, though, so
I mean,
you can
sure.
still add that.
Sure.
Know. He's got a pretty good size advantage still.
I said slightly less big.
So the next interview, we have Hacksaw Jim Duggan with, surprisingly, what he calls his new tag team partner, Nikolai Volkov.
Yeah.
Apparently there has been peace between the Soviet Union and the United States around this time.
Cold War's over,
and
Rage.
they're gonna definitely turn this into a tag team situation.
Yeah, Cold War's over, so now we can have the Soviet Union be a friend now.
Okay, so the next interview is between Earthquake and Dino Bravo with Jimmy Hart, which I believe this is our first Jimmy Hart appearance this pay-per-view.
Oh man, it's taken a while.
It has taken a while. Usually he's all over the place.
Instead, it's been Bobby the Brain that's all over the place.
Yeah, Bobby has been, and Slick I think's been in 2 matches already too. But yeah, this is the first Jimmy Hart appearance, and we get a lot of talking from Earthquake here.
Probably shouldn't. Probably should let
he
Jimmy.
wasn't really as bad as you would think, but he just doesn't have that kind of charisma. But he wasn't horrible on the mic. But he's talking about apparently because we know he's going to face Hogan later in the night, and he's talking about how he put Hogan out of commission. And then he talked about how he put Tugboat out in commission. So this is the first time we've heard from Tugboat. But apparently, based off of the video they showed of Earthquake attacking Tugboat, I don't imagine we're going to see Tugboat. But obviously, this is before he becomes Typhoon and they start the natural disasters.
Yeah. I going back to what we were saying, I would say he wasn't terrible on the mic, but he was more that basic, I'm going to yell in the mic and be
Yeah, there wasn't nothing special about
yeah,
it.
he wasn't a very good character, but I guess he talked fine.
Yeah, there was no issue with the talk. So they're talking and they, go ahead and say everything. And that the only reason I mentioned that maybe Big Boss Man might be facing, because I think Dino Bravo mentioned something about Big Boss Man. So I'm wondering if that might be his opponent, because we do know that Earthquake has a singles match, not a tag team match.
Well, no.
Against Hogan.
See, the reason Dino Bravo was talking about the Big Boss Man in this is because Big Boss Man is going to be in Hulk Hogan's corner.
Oh, okay.
During their match.
Oh, is that what's going to happen?
So Dino Bravo and Jimmy Hart is going to be in Earthquake's corner, and Big Boss Man is going to be at Hulk Hogan's corner. They announced that at the beginning of the show.
Okay. All right. So then the next interview was very entertaining. It was a Jake the Snake.
I don't know if it was entertaining for the right reasons.
It was entertaining to us. But Jake the Snake Roberts does his best to do an interview with Damian wrapped around him, and Damian appeared to try to kill him at least twice.
At least twice, maybe 3 times.
And Jake even starts smiling and laughing during the one, and his face got really red. So I don't know if that was fear or life coming out of his body, because it looked like Damian was trying to choke him out.
I think that was a nervous chuckle, Rage.
I think it was
a nervous chuckle, like, please don't kill me, Snake. Please don't kill me.
He's doing his best to conduct this interview, but this snake is wrapping his little snake body, or not little, he's big, but snake.
Yeah, he's
but
a big
his snake body around his neck, and it appeared that he was trying to squeeze.
Yeah, and we all know, or I don't know if you know, listener, but Jake the Snake was actually afraid of snakes. He said in an interview that he was able to overcome that fear and keep doing what he was doing because they paid him a lot of money to have a snake with him all the time. But he was afraid, and he looked afraid. I mean, he was beet red during this interview. And now, sometimes wrestlers are already beet red while they're talking, but this seemed a little bit more on the side of, I'm gonna die. I have a snake wrapping around my neck. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. But I gotta talk. I gotta talk shit.
Yeah,
Please don't kill me.
He actually did other than that one little snicker where you could tell he kind of broke character for a
Nervous
second.
chuckle.
But other than that, he did an admirable job of continuously doing the interview in his, of course, very cowboyish voice. He's got a very smooth way of talking. I really like Jake's.
I like his promo style.
He's very different promo style than most of the guys
in this era
that just screamed with intensity, which worked for a lot of them. It worked for Hogan, not so much for Warrior. I mean, he's kind of incoherent. It works for LOD. It works for a lot of these guys. And I think that's why I pointed out Mr. Perfect earlier, because I don't recall Mr. Perfect yelling all the time in interviews prior to this, where I felt like he was trying to do that in this show, and it just felt different.
I look at that as a generic interview style that happened a lot in those days. But, and I will argue that Hogan, yes, he was intense, but Hogan had a voice. He had a voice that was recognizable. He didn't sound like this generic, rah, 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 rah. He had a distinct voice that you heard when he talked. So he was different. I don't feel like it was quite the same as a lot of these more generic interviews go.
Yeah.
But you're right. Jake the Snake
is just a different style than everybody.
And I think what he's going for is a slithering, I mean, he is the snake. So I think he was going for that, what you imagine a snake would talk. I don't know. Never heard a snake talk, but
You've never seen The Jungle Book?
Well, okay, I've seen a cartoon snake talk. My bad.
They turned it into live action.
I've seen computer animated snake talk, and an animated snake talk. This is a more personification than I've seen.
Jafar turned into a snake.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm
just
saying.
continue going.
You've seen a snake talk?
With cartoons. I said cartoons.
Okay, so the first match that we come to on our part 2 segment of SummerSlam is a match between Jake the Snake Roberts and Bad News Brown with special enforcer, or I guess really he was a referee.
Special referee,
the Big Boss Man. Now, this match kind of disappointed me, and it's probably the first match of the night that really disappointed me. Because it wasn't much of a match, and I kind of have a theory on why. It kind of looked like maybe Jake the Snake legitimately hurt his back early in the match. So I don't think this was much of a match. It was more of a brawl where they could do simple stuff where he wasn't really taking bumps. But there's a little issue I had with this match. Bad News Brown, early in the match, used a chair and hit Jake the Snake Roberts in the belly. So, Big Boss Man forced Bad News Brown back in the ring and didn't disqualify him.
No, he did.
He did not. So later on in the match, he took a second chair shot, and that's when he got disqualified. So why didn't you disqualify him with the first chair shot? So at first I thought he was going to let anything goes, and then the match ends with disqualification.
He just gave
Jake the Snake Roberts wins through DQ.
It's like, no, you're just in timeout this time. I'm not going to disqualify you. You're in timeout.
I don't know.
Bad News Brown.
It was a very odd match. It was all one-sided for Bad News. It kind of felt like something was wrong with Jake the Snake. Like he couldn't perform properly.
I'm thinking that he lost some of his airways through the fact that his snake was trying to choke him in his interview.
Yeah, very possible. I do remember that. So yeah, it was just a very awkward match. Definitely did not live up to expectations because we here at the Rage and Blaze show love Jake the Snake Roberts.
We do.
So we expected a fun, really good match. Plus, this is only the second time we've had a special guest referee. First time was Jesse the Body Ventura. So this is actually our first time doing the show that we had an active wrestler as the special guest referee. So that was noteworthy. Let me go ahead and kind of finish what happened along the match, and then there's something I'd like to point out and bring up that is also another first on our show. So at the end of the match, Bad News Brown tried to leg drop Damian, and Big Boss Man saved Damian. And then during this little commotion between Big Boss Man and Bad News Brown, Jake the Snake comes back in the ring, pulls Damian out of the bag, and scares Bad News Brown, and he goes hightailing down the aisle.
Yeah, Bad News Brown was really trying to evoke PETA by trying to attack that snake.
Yeah, he definitely did.
I'm pretty sure PETA would be pissed off way before now, but...
Oh, yeah. So a couple first we had. During the match, Jake the Snake Roberts actually did the whole, how do you do the motion where you kind of put your fist up and you put your hand on your...
He was,
on your arm?
Without using the middle finger, he was trying to inform Bad News Brown that he would like him to fuck you.
Yes. So this is the first time we've seen that, and this has been family friendly up until this is the first match since we have covered this show that we've seen any towards the Attitude Era type of stuff.
Yeah, this is pre-Stone Cold flipping off.
Pre-Stone Cold. So Jake definitely did the FU sign. But not only that, but at the end of the match, after Big Boss Man disqualifies Bad News Brown, you clearly hear Bad News Brown say, fuck you, to the Big Boss Man. And that wasn't edited. I mean, it's on a app, so... it wasn't edited or nothing, but it just makes me wonder when this aired pay-per-view, did they edit it or was it perfectly live? So just kind of makes me wonder if we watched an original show of this. I mean, you've got him saying "fuck you," and you can clearly hear it to the Big Boss Man.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder if Bad News Brown realizes he's actually a wrestler. And he was just literally legit pissed off. And I believe that was after that Big Boss Man stopped him from leg dropping a snake.
Yeah, I think that was. I think it was like...
He's like, fuck you, man. I was trying to kill this thing.
Yeah, it was right after he disqualified him, and then he tried to leg drop the snake, and then he had some choice words for Big Boss
Our dad
Man.
would have been very disappointed as well.
That the snake didn't get crushed.
the snake didn't get killed by that leg drop.
Because I'm sure Dad probably feels the only good snake is a dead snake.
I'm pretty sure that is how he feels about snakes.
Yes,
definitely. He is not a fan.
I can't imagine if we ever got Dad to watch a wrestling show, period. I can't imagine he would ever watch a Jake the Snake Roberts
We can't
match.
even get Dad to listen to our show. We're his sons.
Yes. So please, we need you guys to watch this because Dad doesn't support us.
I'm going to cry. Why, Dad? Why?
we get no. This is not his cup of tea.
Most of our cup of teas are not his cup of teas,
No.
to be honest with you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. But like I said, ultimately I was a little disappointed in this whole situation. And unfortunately, the reality is based off of some things that happened early in the match, I think Jake was legitimately... I think he had an injury early in the match. There was an awkward moment where he kind of was holding his back, but it wasn't like anything happened so devastating for him to sell it like that. So I really think something happened and it caused this match to be a little bit more of a brawl, and it just was a different type of match than what it potentially could have been.
I didn't catch that, but you know what? Maybe we'll have to look that up, see if he was. But
yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Or maybe he just sold a move that I just kind of didn't think was as sellable as what he did. But who knows? Who knows? This is just an awkward outing. It wasn't much of a wrestling match at all. So, you guys let us know. Hop on the Twitter, the Facebook. Just hit us up and tell us if you felt the same after you watched this match.
no,
I'd love to get the feedback.
They're not going to do that.
They never
I
do,
mean, not even our dad supports us. So what do you think these people are going to do?
I guess if Dad's not willing to listen to it, you guys don't have to. Okay, go. Let's move on.
All right.
Okay, so the next segment we get is I can already see we got Brother Love coming out, and that about makes me sick. So I'm going to postpone it so I don't have to talk about it. But eventually I will get to it. So before we get to that, I'm going to ask Blaze. You've got a little inside info that we had kind of discussed and had curiosities about on our part 1 episode. Why don't you fill us in on a few things you found out?
Well, first off, Brutus the Barber Beefcake was originally supposed to be the challenger for the WWF Intercontinental Championship against Mr. Perfect. But on July 4th, Beefcake was injured in a parasailing accident in Lutz, Florida, causing him to have 9 hours of surgery done on his face, forcing Vince McMahon to take Beefcake out of the match. As a result, Kerry Von Erich was brought in as a substitute for Beefcake and won the title.
Okay, so that explains that.
The second thing I have is Shawn Michaels, prior to his match, was attacked by Hercules, which we thought was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Not the attack. I mean, that made sense. With the chain seemingly leaving Marty Jannetty to fight both members of Power and Glory by himself. But by the end of the match, Michaels came back to defend Jannetty, but ended up having to be stretchered out after Power and Glory attacked him again. In reality, Michaels had injured his ACL during a match against the Orient Express at a house show in Augusta, Georgia on August 4th. Michaels claims in his 2005 autobiography, Heartbreak and Triumph, that the injury occurred in a motorcycle accident mere days before the pay-per-view. However, Michaels' injury was reported in the Wrestling Observer newsletter right after it occurred, and subsequent house show results would prove that Michaels was out of action for weeks before the pay-per-view, while Jannetty would either work singles matches or team with Shane Douglas throughout August.
Okay. So that explains a few questions we had early on in the first part of the episode. So now we will move on and talk about this Brother Love segment, which only is salvageable because we get our first appearance of Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes, Sergeant Slobber's first appearance is right here. And, it was Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, it was good times.
Yeah, he did a good promo. He's a drill sergeant that basically thinks us as Americans are soft. So he plays the part very, very well. He is who he is.
Is he wrong?
But it's funny because he's talking about Nikolai Volkov, who is actually the face in this situation, and Slaughter is the heel. So very odd turn of events that, back then it was always America versus anybody else, and America was always the hero. And this is new era, 1990, a little spin on it.
Yeah, we got a villain, Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, it was fun times. I know Ricky Rage loves Brother Love.
Oh my gosh, that
it's his favorite segment of every show. Just loves seeing Brother Love show up. You know what? I don't hate him as much because normally he has great people to interview. I mean, he had Roddy Piper. That was fantastic. The guy smoking all the time wasn't as good.
Yeah, I don't know. I was happy to see Sergeant Slaughter, but just Brother Love just irritates me. But I think that's about enough time as we are going to spend on this segment. And that's an order.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
You
What?
kind of forgot about something.
Oh,
got a
yeah.
sighting.
We did have
We got our first sighting of Sapphire.
Oh, well, we
This
didn't
is
get, we
very
didn't get to
exciting.
see
She ran
Sapphire.
through. We saw her ass
We didn't see her.
running into that room.
Yeah, so they think they found Sapphire. I also almost skipped over the fact
Breaking
that
news.
they had an Orient Express interview with Mr. Fuji.
Yeah, you missed that too. But
Sorry, I'm just trying to move on.
I guess, jeez, people come here to listen to our podcast, and you just want to skip shit.
Yeah, I
That's
just want to get to
so
the action, though,
so
Blaze.
unprofessional.
I want to get to the action. This is
breaking news, man. Breaking news. Sapphire has been seen after being missing through the first half.
Well, we still haven't seen Sapphire, so
We saw her run into that room.
I honestly don't know if we're gonna see Sapphire. It just makes me wonder if she's not even there. I'm starting to believe that. I mean, that could have been anybody's ass.
Sure.
Who knows? They could have used Earthquake and put him in polka dot outfit and said, "Here, do this."
You realize Earthquake is a white man, and Sapphire is slightly less white.
I guess if Rowdy Piper can do it, anybody can do it, right? Who knows what they're gonna do?
Wow. Just I see how it is.
No, but for real though, I'm honestly getting to the point where I don't know if we're gonna see her at all. To be honest with you,
I think they keep coming back to this story. There's no way that there isn't going to be a finish to it.
yeah, but
There'll be something.
Doesn't it kind of feel like maybe they're gonna say this is what happened and we're never gonna get her interviewed? And it just seems odd, doesn't it?
I mean, it is odd. It's a weird story, but they keep bringing it up, so it's going to have a finish. Whether it's going to be a good finish, I don't know, but it's going to have one. It's not the last we've heard of Sapphire. Breaking news, fan. I will keep you updated on the Sapphire story, even though Rage doesn't seem to give a shit.
Yeah, like I said, I think she's done for.
I mean, she might be.
Okay, so the next match we get is the Orient Express with Mr. Fuji in their corner and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov. And before the match starts, they do a, let's just call it a rendition of God Bless America.
Yeah, it was right up there with the skills of Rockin' Robin.
I almost wish Rockin' Robin was back.
She should have joined in.
So if anybody's ever heard Nikolai Volkov do his Soviet Union theme, you definitely know he basically sang it the exact same way, just with America instead. And then Hacksaw just should never sing in public ever
No.
again. I don't know if he ever does.
Nikolai
again.
Volkov
bad.
actually sounded at least a little bit better than Hacksaw Jim Duggan, by just a slight margin.
Well, the way he sang it didn't make sense, or I don't know if it didn't make sense. It just sounds different because he's doing it the exact same way he does that Soviet Union anthem.
Yeah.
So it just was different words, but it just did not sound right. But anyhow, and these are faces, and it just sounded like something the fans would have loved to boo if they were heels. But
and not
these are not the
America
heels in this match.
If
No,
they weren't singing about America.
And then Hacksaw throws one out to the troops in the Middle East at the time. I know this was probably around about the same time Desert Storm probably started, or might have already
91?
started. No, this is 1990.
No, I was thinking Desert Storm started in 91.
Okay, so apparently there's troops overseas, and he acknowledges that. So, and Veterans Day was this past week, so good thing we got to see that. Good, God bless America. So America. So anyhow, this match was a fun match. It wasn't a very long match. There wasn't anything spectacular, but you had Hacksaw do his tackle clothesline, and they get the win, 1, 2, 3. Not a lot going on in this match, but it was nothing to make it a bad match. Does that make sense? It was a short and sweet. the good guys came out and did their thing, and then that was about the end of it.
What is the date? Oh, wow. Desert Storm started August 2nd, 1990.
Oh, so they just got deployed.
Just started Desert Storm.
So obviously that's why
because this was August 27th.
Yeah.
So it's literally this month.
Okay, so that makes sense why Hacksaw threw that out there, because the guys just got deployed. So that makes that helps with a little bit of history there on what was going on in the world at the time of this wrestling event.
Unfortunately, this wasn't a great match for America. I didn't think this was all that great. It was whatever.
It wasn't bad. It just wasn't special.
It just wasn't good.
I didn't see nothing to really knock it. But like I said, it's kind of a short and sweet match. It wasn't long. So other than that, it is what it is. It was a fun little tag team match that you were supposed to root for the good guys. It lasted all but 3 minutes and 22 seconds. So there you go.
Yeah, it was whatever. It was fine. I just don't care much for Hacksaw watching these shows. Just like now this one he didn't cheat to win. So there's that. He didn't whack someone over the head with a 2x4 and get the win. So there's that. He's just a weird face.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely a different type of superstar, but he's more for. How do I want to say? He's like a fun-loving guy that is never going to get nowhere in the business, but not that he ever really did. But he was just kind of one of those type of guys that was just there for some fun, never going to hold a title. I don't know if he ever did hold a title. I'd have to fact search that. But he was just kind of a guy that came out to boost the crowd and say, ho, and go America. He was the guy to wave the red, white, and blue and just to get the crowd pumped up.
Yeah.
So if you understand who Hacksaw was, that's who he was. And that's about that was about the end of it.
He hasn't really impressed me. I remember loving him as a kid, probably because, America thing was like, yay, America. And then as an adult watching these shows, I'm just, he's not great.
Just doesn't do much to tickle your fancy, huh?
No, and he should be a heel.
Why should he be heel?
He cheats almost every match.
He usually cheats when somebody was already trying to cheat, and he gets the comeuppance.
Yeah, he just somehow finds a way to use that 2x4 in almost every match.
Well, he didn't this time, so.
Well, let's praise him for the one match he doesn't use his 2x4 to win.
Yeah, see, he doesn't need it. It's just there if he needs it.
Which I find odd for someone who's supposed to be this American patriot that he has to cheat every time to win. Doesn't that kind of tell you the wrong message, tell the wrong story there?
I don't know. I like I said, he's a fun-loving guy. He's there for a pop, and then he's gone.
Then a pop on the head with a 2x4.
Whatever you got to do.
Or the back.
Hey,
it's normally the back.
There was a guy I remember who made a career as a good guy, and he lies, he cheats, and he steals. And that was his whole shtick.
No, wait a minute.
He was a good guy,
but he
always lied, cheat, and steal.
He started with that gimmick. It doesn't
matter how he started.
And then he just became, the fans just loved him so much.
As a
that
face,
they had to turn him into a face.
He cheated in every match, and he was a face.
And he was fantastic.
I'm just trying to point it out. That's all I'm trying to say.
Eddie Guerrero, you are missed.
I do love Eddie Guerrero. I do miss Eddie Guerrero, and it's just unfortunate we live in a world without Eddie Guerrero anymore.
It is very sad.
I can't wait till we get to his moments in the WWE.
Oh, that will be fantastic.
Because he's
I
one
would love
of the
to see
greatest.
that. Lie, we cheat, we steal. We lie, we cheat, we steal. Love it.
It was a very fun time in wrestling. He was a special superstar.
And that's why he became a face with that gimmick. It's because the fans just ate it up. The fans loved it. They had no choice but to turn him face. Because the fans just loved the whole thing.
It was great. Okay, so let's move on and see what we got next. Okay, so before the match begins, we have a Mean Gene interview still outside Sapphire's room, or the room she was in. And now the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, is outside of that room trying to talk to Saphire and find out what's going on with Saphire. With sweet Saphire. So he doesn't get any explanation. She doesn't answer the door. So he comes out to the ring to his music, and then Macho King comes out to the ring, suspiciously wearing the cowboy hat. Oh, there was an interview with Macho King also.
It was great.
It was a good interview.
He talked about how he's like, I don't think our forefathers was thinking of you when they were talking about the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and they would be rolling in their graves.
Yeah. So then he said, "Snap it to a Slim Jim." Ooh yeah.
Once again, he does not say that.
Yeah,
he does not say that.
He shamelessly plugs the Slim Jim.
No,
okay, maybe not yet. He will eventually. I promise you, he will.
I don't think he ever does it in wrestling.
Well, he's in his wrestling gear when he says it every time I see the commercial. I'm telling you, he does. Oh yeah, he does.
I know he does in this gear.
I bet at some point in the wrestling ring at a show, I'm sure he's holding a Slim Jim, shamelessly plugging it. I'm sure he does. Don't ruin my childhood. Don't ruin my childhood.
Macho Man's legacy should not be because of fucking Slim Jims.
Well, he got me to eat Slim Jims. I like Slim Jims. They're good.
I like Slim Jims too, but you know...
Then snap into a Slim Jim!
No!
Oh yeah!
I mean, okay, but... He's also one of the best wrestlers in the damn WWF!
Yeah.
And WCW.
He'll take you in the ring and he'll... Snap! You into a Slim Jim.
Very disrespectful to Macho Man Randy Savage.
Okay, let's move on. Yeah. So anyhow, they both make their ring entrances and
He's
noticeably
literally doing the hand movements Macho Man did. Like, you can hear that.
I figured you don't know what the microphone's going to pick up. It might pick up the hand.
Yeah, just a little hand movement.
Well, I can't do impressions without the.
We're not a visual podcast.
I can't do the impressions without the whole the motion thing, you know, and it just sometimes you got to do that. So anyhow, so Macho King comes out, and as I keep trying to tell you, he's wearing the cowboy hat. He's not wearing the crown, but he's still Macho King. But he does come out in like the chair that they carry and everything. So before the match gets started, though, we hear money, 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 money.
Everybody's got a price.
So we get the music, and then we get Ted DiBiase out there with Virgil, and he makes a speech, and then he reveals that he has paid off Sweet Saphire.
This was, I think Rage has been nothing but skeptical about this storyline the entire time. And I kept telling him, there's going to be an ending. They're building this up too much. And what an ending it was.
You know why I wasn't sure? Because number one, I didn't know the history of how Saphire stopped. You know, that's not a character that I knew how that ended. I just remember her coming down the ring with Dusty Rhodes, but I didn't know how it ended. But the thing that got me is Sensational Sherry, or Queen Sherry, literally looked a little puzzled on why Saphire was, and I legitimately thought this was a superstar that just hadn't showed up. This was a no-show, and they were just doing something to try to lead it into a story on, we're writing this character off of TV. I thought it was a little bit more unplanned, and they were throwing this together to give Saphire a reason she's no longer there. Could have been a dispute with the WWF or whatever the deal was.
Well, actually,
I didn't expect an actual, there she is with a bag full of money and a fur coat, and she's been paid off. I did not expect that. So I will admit when I'm wrong that this was a good payoff to All Night wondering where Saphire was. But I legitimately had a bad feeling that this was like a no-show thing, that they just had to do something.
Well, Sensational Sherry actually played it off exactly how she should, because apparently it doesn't appear she had anything to do with this. Her and Macho Man, I thought that Macho Man not being there meant that he had her kidnapped or something. I thought they were going with that kind of angle.
Where instead it turned into
out of nowhere.
It started a new feud between, which actually, let's be honest. He's just a common man versus the $1 Million Man. That's a perfect
Oh my
feud.
gosh. I am so excited.
I can't wait till Survivor Series. I'm assuming we'll get to see this played out.
This should be a WrestleMania match.
Or maybe they'll
$1 Million Man
it till then.
$1 Million Man versus the common man, American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I mean, come on. This is fantastic. Two legends going off in such a great story. He paid off Saphire.
That was very good. A very good way to start a feud. And it's perfect that the common man's taking on the $1 Million Man. That's a perfect, and the whole idea behind, there was a whole purpose to, I'm trying to prove that any common man has a price, or common woman. Ha 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 ha. I just thought that was great. That was a great payoff.
And I guess there was an actual match that happened too. But
yeah, we haven't even got to the actual match.
Overshadowed.
So yeah, there was an actual match. It was a very decent, good match. Not a very long one, but a very decent, good match. And of course it ends with shenanigans with Macho King using Queen Sherry's purse that obviously has a brick or something in it. So
it was just, I mean, these things happen. Queen Sherry was just trying to show the referee her audition for Cats, because she's in the
she's doing
Cats.
She's definitely doing
she was showing off her audition, and she just wasn't looking, and Macho Man kind of tripped holding that purse for some reason, and just accidentally hit Dusty Rhodes in the head with it because he tripped while she was trying to show off her audition of Cats, And I'm sure the referee really thought it was impressive. I mean, I imagine she was fantastic in
I'm
Cats.
sure. So, back to the action. The match is over. Macho King gets the win through some, dirty deeds.
Done dirt cheap.
It wasn't very cheap. I mean, that $1 Million Man threw a bunch of money and threw Dusty Rhodes off his game. So anyhow, then we get Dusty Rhodes running down and chasing after Saphire, and by this time, Ted DiBiase, Virgil, and Saphire have gone into a limo, and they've drove away. Of course, right when Dusty gets there, they're driving away.
I think this is the longest storyline played out of any.
Yeah, and it's very good. They definitely sent this through the whole show. They definitely kept this a guessing game on what was going to happen, and we get this big payoff in the end. And to me, I thought it was a very good payoff, and I'm pleasantly surprised, because with the way it was playing out, where you never saw Saphire, there was no real explanation. I kind of thought this was going to be lazy. I was wrong. I'm glad I was wrong. Now, keep in mind, this is a 30-year-old show. A lot of people are probably listening to this like, oh, I remember that. What a fucking idiot. So, but keep in mind,
we'll accept your feedback for that too. I mean, if you don't want to be disappointing like our dad, I mean, I love my dad. Just kidding. If you're listening to this show and you want to give us that feedback, and call Rage a fucking idiot for not recognizing the greatness of this story, feel free.
Oh, like I said, after the payoff, I really enjoyed this. But beforehand, I was skeptical of it. Because I know wrestling has done things in the past where somebody doesn't show up, or there's really there's a real life story on why they're not there, but they just kind of throw together something just to give the fans an explanation on what's going on.
And I hope that the real person that played Saphire really did get this nice payoff, because this is the last time we see her. I looked it up.
This is it. This is it.
We're done with Saphire.
Okay.
She gets paid off and leaves with the $1 Million Man.
Well, hopefully she got that bag of money.
Right? Yeah, and got into the limousine, and $1 Million Man's like, okay, this is fake, so,
Oh, by the way, Vince is firing you tomorrow.
Yeah, you're fired.
See ya.
You're fired. We just realized you suck.
Oh, man. Well, anyhow, so that's the end of Saphire, I guess, and now we get a new feud with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah. Let's just hope it's not like in a show in between this and Survivor Series, and we don't get the payoff.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep tabs on it, and maybe if it happened at like a Saturday night's main event or something weird, we'll do a bonus episode or something.
We'll have to look into
we'll
it.
find out, but we'll wait until we cover Survivor Series, see if this feud's still going on, and then go from there.
All right.
Okay. All right. So the next thing we get is a Hulk Hogan interview, talking about his match between Earthquake, and that interview happens, and of course you get classic Hogan commentary that you always get.
Yep, it was very Hogan-like.
Yes, very, very, very Hogan-esque. So then we get the match. We get Hulk Hogan versus Earthquake. We've got Big Boss Man out there to support Hogan, and we've got Dino Bravo and Jimmy Hart out there supporting Earthquake. Now, I thought this was one of the better matches I've seen Hogan in. It was a very, I thought, kind of fun match. I'm not saying it was the greatest match ever or nothing. I'm just saying it was a very entertaining match. Some standouts during this match, and a lot of reasons there were standouts was because there was a lot of shenanigans and interference with all the men. Dino Bravo, Big Boss Man,
Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy Hart
got involved.
A lot of them were getting involved at certain times, whether it was those guys trying to do shenanigans, so Big Boss Man tries to counter it, to stop it from happening. But one of the craziest parts of the match was, I think it was Earthquake was he bear hugging Hogan, or I'm trying to recall what the move was. But Hogan is reaching his hands out, and apparently Hogan has gotten to the point where it must be stale for him to rip his own shirt, because he decides to rip the referee's shirt while reaching out for help. I don't know who he thinks is going to help him, but he grabs Earl Hebner's shirt and rips it. And he only rips like a weird corner side of it. So it's like it doesn't rip all the way. So you got like Earl Hebner's, chubbiness kind of flopping on the side. Kind of reminded me of a Big Boss Man match. So it was just very odd. But it was very noteworthy, and definitely had to talk about it. It was kind of funny. And then you had a moment where, of course,
I thought the standout of the match was that table.
Well, we haven't got to that, but I just thought that was noteworthy, the whole ripping of the shirt. And then you had, of course, Hogan gets his big boot and his leg drop, but Jimmy Hart comes in and stops it while Dino Bravo distracts the ref. And now we can move on to the shenanigans outside of the ring. There was curiously a table right next to the ring that I don't think was there all night.
I think they were selling Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah,
at the table
yeah. It looked like they were set up for some fundraiser right next to the ring. But it was just kind of odd because I told Blaze during the match, I said, that table's getting used. I said, it's just showed up out of nowhere. I said, that table's getting used.
The table's the most impressive thing about this match, because right after Jimmy Hart tries to attack Hulk Hogan with the megaphone, he misses and hits Earthquake, and then Hulk Hogan picks Earthquake up and slams him on that table, and that table does not break after having that very large man land on it.
Yeah, so I really if any listeners are out here knows who made that table, I would like to know the company that made it, because I could use some sturdy tables.
Yeah.
And I know that manufacturer, That is the best commercial you could have ever. I know this is a 30-year-old pay-per-view, but if they were making tables 30 years ago that don't break when Earthquake lands on it, then I'm guessing they're like freaking titanium steel today. Because how did that table not break? He body slammed Earthquake on a table, and it just kind of, the leg folded over, and he just kind of landed on it, and the table's like, what the fuck you doing, dude? It's like, you're in my way. It's like, that table is like the baddest ass table in the history of tables. What the hell?
Yeah, it was a very, very good table.
So, very interesting to see Earthquake not shatter that table. So that was interesting.
I think it would that have been our first broken table on,
I don't know, maybe.
On our show?
Maybe it might have.
I don't think we've seen.
So, and I'm not counting it because it didn't break.
It didn't
so
break.
I don't know.
Table.
That's a good question. I don't recall anybody going through tables yet as of this point, or even the announced table. Well, the announcer's table isn't by the ringside right now.
That's
right. They've got it up, so it's not really in place like we traditionally see it. So in today's, or in 1990, Nia Jax would not be able to put Lana 8 times now. We're at 8 times.
Oh, I have
with one failed attempt.
I have Nia Jax on my Fantasy League team, and I am so glad I picked her up. I'm getting because that's her finisher, that Samoan drop. So I'm getting finisher points. I'm getting broken table points. Fantasy Pro Wrestling Apologist Fantasy League, and I am currently in the lead. But continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So anyhow, I just think Nia Jax would have a hard time in wrestling in 1990 because she don't have the announce table to punish Lana.
I don't think it would be Nia Jax that would be having a hard time. I'm pretty sure it would be Lana that would be having a hard time not breaking through that table, because it's worse not to break the table.
So let's just have a little bit of fun moment. So let's put Nia Jax 30 years earlier in 1990, but let's keep Lana in the year 2020. I already got an answer to this. But who would you suggest she would be abusing in wrestling in 1990?
Rockin' Robin.
Have we seen Rockin' Robin?
Have we seen any female wrestlers other than Sensational Sherry in the last few episodes that we've done?
I was going to say Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth never was really a wrestler.
I know, that's the point.
Did
she would just bully her.
But Lana's technically a wrestler, so
don't really have many wrestlers to choose from right now.
Did Miss Elizabeth actually take bumps?
No, but okay, so this was a failed experiment. I was just trying to say, like, if you put Nia Jax in 1990, which female wrestling personality, it didn't have to be a wrestler, would she punish? And I was just thinking Queen Elizabeth.
Sure.
I would have liked to see that.
I'm sure Macho Man would too, after all the times Elizabeth. Anyways.
Oh, and she did take bumps. They just weren't in wrestling.
No. Oh! Damn!
Yeah, shit be snowing.
We're talking
in her
about
locker
a
room.
penis.
Oh, that's not what I was talking.
Oh, yes, drugs.
Drugs.
I was thinking of. Never mind.
She was very into. Well, I'm sure she was.
She was taking a lot of bumps other ways too, but
so
fair enough.
She just didn't do it in the ring.
Damn. Jeez.
So, anyhow, okay. Well, rest in peace, Ms.
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our main event. Okay, so before the main event starts, we get a slew of interviews. The first one being Ravishing Rick Rude and Bobby the Brain Heenan addressing the main event, The Ultimate Warrior.
Yes, and this is Rick Rude being as awesome as Rick Rude is.
Very good interview. Very good on the mic. These guys are awesome. Just a shame that he was never champion. But I was happy to see him in the main event for the championship.
Yeah, at least he tried for it,
Spoiler alert, he never wins the title, so we kind of know how this ends. Okay, so The next interview is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, talking about Saphire and, his bitterness towards what happened there.
Yeah, he said, he's like, I understand you got to do what you got to do and everything, but,
Yeah, and this was not your typical fun-loving interview with Dusty Rhodes. This is definitely more scaled back and serious, not doing all the fun little things that he does during interviews. So this is a very different Dusty Rhodes interview.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next interview we get is Earthquake and Dino Bravo and Jimmy Hart.
What about Hogan?
Oh, did I skip one? Okay, I'm sorry. Hogan came first. So we get a Hogan interview where we get him doing Hogan things, typical Hogan. But what was really noteworthy was when he did his poses at the end of the interview.
And you know how he just backs out with his little pose?
He kind of shimmies back out of the camera with his poses. But in this interview, he rides out backwards in like a motorcycle motion. It was very interesting. So then after that interview,
I think that's kind of shades of Hollywood.
Yeah, definitely. So after that interview, then we get an Earthquake, Dino Bravo, Jimmy Hart interview. Just pretty much saying,
dancing around while yelling
he's kind of bouncing while
I'll
yelling.
get my revenge.
Anyhow, they basically say the typical thing that I'm unstoppable. You couldn't beat me, even though he lost the match count out, but he couldn't pin him. He couldn't beat him. So just showing that sheer dominance. Yeah, it was kind of a cop out giving him a count out win, but it gave Hogan the win, but it didn't make Earthquake look pinnable. So, definitely they talk about that kind of stuff in the interview. And he's just yelling while bopping, and then Dino Bravo's yelling in the camera even after the microphone gets taken away from him. He's continuously yelling into the camera.
And they kept showing off Earthquake's back.
Yeah, they kept showing his marks where his
which
back
looked bad.
His back was pretty beat up, but they were kind of just showing that I'm still standing, even though all this punishment I can take it.
I'm still standing because I'm an earthquake.
So, anyhow, and then the final interview before the main event is the Ultimate Warrior.
And he tells a joke.
Yeah, he tells a joke.
He's like, what's the difference between Ravishing Rick Rude and the Liberty Bell? Because they're in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they're in Philly.
He's like, one's got a crack and one is a ding dong.
I will tell you, I've never seen Mean Gene Okerlund look so scared. If you've ever seen anybody next to somebody who you believe might have Stockholm Syndrome, this would be what I would imagine the interview would look
very
like.
Forced laugh after the
he
joke.
Was very nervously laughing, like, I don't know what to think of this guy.
Ding dong, that's so funny.
So it was a thinker.
Ultimate Warrior did his little dad jokes.
Ultimate Warrior kind of gave him a look, and Mean Gene's like, yeah, I get it. That's funny. It was kind of like so awkward. Like, laugh at me, little man.
I'm funny. I looked it up. I'm funny.
It's a joke. Ha ha ha.
I got it on this kid's book, 1001 Jokes.
So then another noteworthy thing about this interview is we get a glimpse of the current WWF World Heavyweight Championship belt, and it's still the Winged Eagle belt, but it has like a light blue belt strap around it.
They let whoever was the champion choose the color, maybe?
I don't know, but I do
it's
like. I thought it was very different. It was very he's a very colorful wrestler. Has a very very colorful looking belt. Well, it's not very poppin' color. It's like a light blue. It's
it doesn't. It's not. It's a little muted.
It's actually not outlandish. I don't remember ever seeing this belt. It
kind of reminds me of what you would imagine one of the old women's titles would be.
I kind of like it. I think it looks, still the Winged Eagle design. Everything else looks the same. The strap's just a different color. I just thought it was a little different. I'd also like to point out during the interview that you get a lot better view of his face paint in this one than you do when the match actually starts, because this is a close-up with an interview, and the makeup's really detailed, very different looking. I mean, Warrior looks prime.
He's champion, so they got him in like
main
the
event
pristine
prime shape.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say that the black and neon colored trunks really pop. I just think this is a really, really good look. I would love to hear if any listeners know if there's an action figure of this SummerSlam Warrior, because this is an awesome
Boomer,
look for.
if you could contact us.
Yeah,
do you have that one?
or Warren. Warren dabbles into toys. That would be an awesome action figure to own. I think that's an awesome looking Warrior. Just face paint, trunks, the whole look. I just think that's an awesome looking Warrior. I just would love to see if there's an action figure out there of this Warrior, because this is a good look for him.
Yeah, I like it. It's the neon, black and neon. I like it.
Yeah, so it's pretty good look. And then speaking of outfits, I know we're spending a lot of time on outfits here. Ravishing Rick Rude comes out to the ring, does his typical, let me tell you all Pennsylvania sweat hogs. They're in Philly. He does his little shtick at the beginning, and he's got some really cool tights on, with Warrior's picture on the back with a fist going to his face. So that was interesting attire. I really enjoyed his look. And I will tell you what, this was an awesome cage match. I really, really enjoyed myself for this match. You had Ravishing Rick Rude get cut pretty early, so you clearly see blood throughout the whole match with Rick Rude.
I think we've only had bleeding in the cage matches we've watched so far.
Yeah, well, there was King Kong Bundy and Hogan. There was some blood.
Yeah.
Now this one, there was some blood. We thought maybe Ultimate Warrior was bleeding, but with the face paint, it was hard to confirm or deny. It was hard to tell if he ever got cut open. Could you tell?
No, I couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell if it was blood or if it was face paint and smearing. But Rick Rude clearly is bleeding. But Warrior was kind of up in the air, not sure if he was bleeding or not. They never really gave us a close-up shot of him celebrating to really kind of confirm it. Also, Bobby the Brain Heenan got involved in this match. He threw the cage door into Warrior while Warrior was trying to escape. Which this match did end in an escape. Ultimate Warrior escaped while Rick Rude was dazed and confused, kind of doing the whole put him up, kind of like blindly looking around trying to find somebody to fight, but he's so dazed and confused, there's nobody there. Warrior takes this opportunity outside of the cage while holding onto the cage to thrust his hips, similar to the way Rick Rude does at the beginning of the match, where he kind of thrust his body. And so that was kind of a neat little mocking of Rick Rude while leaving the cage. And then, of course, Warrior wins this match and retains the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I also liked when Warrior first gets in, he climbs the cage to get in the ring and starts shaking it, and I thought he was going to break the cage.
I don't think Warrior really had a filter when it came to, he just wants to look dominant and doesn't care about people's personal property.
No, I don't believe that.
Very reckless.
It's because he's an alien, so
Yeah, aliens just don't understand the same concept as everybody else and the rules for everybody else. So I thought this was an amazing pay-per-view. To be honest, you just built a bunch of them all together, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble. This is one of my favorite as a whole pay-per-view that we have done so far, where the whole card was fun. There was a couple duds when we started part 2 of this podcast. Not horrible duds, but duds nonetheless. But the first part of this show was all, great, good matches at least, or if not great. And then the second part, I thought There was a couple slow ones when we first started this part of the podcast, but then it picked right back up with, Savage and then Hogan and then the Ultimate Warrior match. So I thought this was a phenomenal pay-per-view. If we listed all our pay-per-views together, I think I'd put this probably at the top. I mean, because this was a great pay-per-view. I thought this main event was great. I mean, you have the Ultimate Warrior and you kind of worry about your main event because him and Hogan are kind of not the best of wrestlers. But Warrior has something energetic that kind of changes that dynamic of being
if he has the right opponent.
Yeah, and Rick Rude's great.
Someone who really sells the power and everything, then he can be good. With both of them, Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, I would say that they're energetic and fun to watch. That if they have the right villain that they're facing, it really makes for a fun match.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start our little segments here.
Favorite match of the night.
Okay, for best match of the night, I was kind of torn here. Like, I had a clear-cut winner throughout this whole show, and then that cage match, to me, was phenomenal, and it kind of put me in a position where I'm kind of split.
I mean, there's no splitting for me. It was the 2 out of 3 falls match.
So you're going with the Hart
Foundation.
Foundation.
That's the best match of the night.
It was an absolute great match.
Ultimate Warrior was fun. I would like to say Dusty versus Macho Man, but that wasn't exactly a great match. It was intertwined with a great story.
I agree with that.
So it wasn't a great match. So it's the 2 out of 3 falls match with the Hart Foundation finally winning the tag titles. Hands down.
And I'll tell you what, I completely agree with you. I actually probably wouldn't argue that is the best match of the night. But for just the sake of not being repetitive, and I was kind of split anyhow, I'm going to go with the main event. Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude for the world title. For me, I'm sure if this was not a cage match, the Hart Foundation winning the titles would have definitely been clear-cut winner. Adding that this was a cage match added a fun, really enjoyable factor to this match. See, if that makes any sense.
I get what you're saying. However, this was the main event was fun, but I didn't think it was like there wasn't like a bunch of highlights and a bunch of great moments for me that would make it the best match of the night, especially when you had to compare it with that 2 out of 3 falls match, which had fantastic moments.
Oh, it was a great match. Fantastic.
Great wrestling, fantastic moments. LOD coming out, even the weird switcheroo that made absolutely no sense because none of them look the same. Demolition, even with those crazy weird shenanigans, but you had the finale with Legion of Doom coming out and stopping those shenanigans.
It was awesome.
And then you also had the best moment, the best tag team that we've been watching on our show, finally winning the titles. There was no comparison. It's one of the best matches I've seen on our podcast. It was great.
I agree with that. Like I said, I'm not even going to argue about the best match here. I just kind of wanted to go a different direction.
I understand what you're saying, but it's wrong.
Fair
Stick
enough.
to your guns.
For once,
Stick to your guns.
For once, I might even agree with Blaze. I do. It's kind of hard to argue that wasn't the best match of the night, but I just wanted to highlight that cage match was phenomenal. I thought it was great. Ravishing Rick Rude is great. He elevates anybody that's in there. Hell, he elevated the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, so this was just a great match. You had Bobby the Brain Heenan getting involved. You had the cage involved. It just, to me, this was an awesome match, and I really enjoyed it. So let's move on.
Worst match of the night.
Okay, so for the worst match of the night, I think this was kind of a clear-cut favorite, or a clear-cut answer for me, and that was the Jake the Snake Roberts, as much as I hate to say it because I love Jake the Snake, and the Bad News Brown match with Big Boss Man as the special guest referee, it just did not do anything for me. I felt something was off. Although we did Google it during one of the matches, we can't find any proof that Jake the Snake Roberts was hurt during this match. It just didn't feel like much of a match. It felt like something, for whatever reason, Jake couldn't really perform that night, and I don't know what the reason was. But it just made for an awkward match, and it just was not a very good match, in my opinion. I just hate putting Jake the Snake at the bottom of the list, but unfortunately on this pay-per-view, when you had a lot of phenomenal matches or good matches in this pay-per-view, to me that was a clear-cut dud of a match.
See, I will not place Jake the Snake at the bottom because I'm going to go with the Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov versus the Orient Express. That match was just boring to me. On a show that had so many great highlights and fun matches, it was glaringly worse than anything else we saw on this pay-per-view. And the Jake the Snake had the fun Bad News Brown trying to do a leg drop on a snake. So it had some interesting moments to go along with it. For me to propel and not put Jake the Snake at the bottom, I can happily put Jim Duggan and versus the Orient Express and Nikolai Volkov bottom of my list on matches.
That was right there with the one I picked, so I agree with you to a degree that was at the bottom of the card of this show. I just felt
I'm not saying
there was something odd and awkward off about that Jake the Snake match that just didn't make it much of a match. Ended in DQ. There wasn't even, I don't think there was one wrestling move made. I mean, it was just weird. It was just a brawl, and it just didn't feel like, it felt like something was off.
For me, it was the story that went with it that propels it, and then the other match just did nothing for me.
I gotcha. Okay.
SummerSlam rankings.
Okay, so now we've got 3 SummerSlams under our belt in this show, and what do? We rank them.
Yeah, and I think we can just do this in unison. So, what's your worst?
Number
WrestleMania 1. What's
SummerSlam
the next?
1.
Or SummerSlam 1. What's next?
SummerSlam 2.
And the best one is by far
SummerSlam 3. And unless they go above and beyond for the next SummerSlam or the next one after that, I think this one's going to stick to the top for a little while.
It's strange. What is it with threes? SummerSlam 3, WrestleMania 3? I mean, as of right now, that's still holding strong after watching 6 WrestleManias.
Yeah, I mean, the third Star Wars is usually really good in all the trilogies.
That's true.
So, I mean, yeah, the third one, they usually bring out all the stops, and I think by then they know what the fans want.
Fair enough.
Now, unfortunately, with wrestling, everyone's kind of went to 3, and then there's been a kind of a slope down at times, definitely with WrestleMania.
Well, I think WrestleMania 3 is really resting on the fact that it has what is considered, and so far, the best match we've seen on our podcast, and that's that Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon. And we are sorely missing Ricky the Dragon on our podcast. We haven't seen him in quite a while.
Yeah. So, but that's where it stands with the rankings. We definitely agree on the SummerSlam rankings, and we'll continuously see how that evolves. But yeah, I mean, so far, like I said, this has been one of the best shows I think we've covered. Just all around enjoyable matches throughout the whole show.
It just was consistently good.
Yeah, you had a couple that were just kind of, whatever. I don't think you had one like horrible match. Like I said, even the Jake the Snake Roberts, as much as it was just awkwardly kind of like there wasn't a lot going on and something felt off about Jake. You still had a couple chair shots. You had Damian at the end, chasing with the snake.
Yeah.
So there was enjoyable moments to the match. And even the Nikolai Volkov Hacksaw Jim Duggan, I thought was an enjoyable, okay match. Wasn't special, wasn't great, but it was just, good, USA versus the Orient, is that type of thing, that you obviously didn't, didn't care about. But there was no stinkers in this match. Like, this was like, how did this get put on TV type of stuff.
Yeah.
So this was consistently, I think, a really great pay-per-view. And moving forward, I have high hopes that maybe more and more shows will be like this for our shows. I'm still can't wait to see Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels start getting into singles competition, because I think that's really going to elevate our show. Okay, so all we got really left to do is plug the pluggables. So go ahead, Blaze. Why don't you get us going?
You can find me on the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Instagram, on Dragon Blazer Production, and you can find me on the tweets, on Dragon Blazer Pro.
So how do you decide which ones are plural and not? Because Instagram was single.
I'm basing it on how much I can annoy you with it.
Dear Lord.
Multiverse!
Yeah, I don't get it. There's multiple, and I don't even know how you said Twitter. So you just
the tweets.
The way you said it was just.
Tweet.
I mean, you'll have to listen back to it. It was kind of awkward. Okay, so you can find the Rage and Blaze Show on Facebook. You can find the Rage and Blaze Show on Instagram, just the one. And you can find me at Ricky Rayberg on Twitter. So there it is. There's the pluggables, and I've had a really good time on this episode. So hopefully they keep going up from here, because we've had a couple duds lately. So I'm really excited about this one. It was a good one. It was a good show.
It was.
Okay, so this has been the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
Good night from Rage's Pit.
Night, everybody.
And here is your winners, and still podcast tag team champions of the world,
The Rage and Blaze Show.
Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Rage and Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze Show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.